More and more creators are combining their photography with their filmmaking, and as they look to get the most out of their kit and out of their creativity, turning a camera like this into a filmmaking rig like this becomes an incredible option for expanding the creative work that you can do with it. In this video, I'll show you how to make a filmmaking rig out of your mirrorless camera, why you might want to do that in the first place, and how that can be suitable for a variety of different types of filmmaking. Everyone's unique and every filmmaker's needs differ. So I'm going to show you 3 types of setup with these cameras. These setups can all be expanded upon and tailored to fit the needs of the filmmaker. For me, the rig needs to be relatively small. I need to be able to handhold it. I need to be able to break it down easily. And most of all, I need it to be functional. The main reasons I went for something like this over a proper cinema camera is primarily size and cost. And that size really translates into the flexibility that I'm after with it. And that brings me onto the initial build. For this first build, I'm using a very popular photography camera, the Sony A7RV. The camera's got extensive filmmaking capabilities. It's able to shoot in 4K up to 60 frames a second in 10-bit, and it produces a really nice image. I know that some newer cameras shoot in 6K or even 8K, but for what I do, I just don't feel like they're necessary. Plus, there's a massive drag on resources as you try and edit that footage, and the storage space requirements for that as well just make it something that I wouldn't even consider. This first setup is one that I often use with my main filmmaking camera, which is actually this, the Sony A7S III, which basically has an identical body to the R5. The foundational component to this and every build is this small rig cage. Being totally open, Small Rig have sent me a bunch of products to use in this video, but I have been using their kit, cages and other accessories for over 5 years now, and they are products that I really love. Small Rig offer these cages for the majority of mirrorless cameras now, and all of these can be found on their website. I'll link all of the featured products below, but once you have the cage for your specific camera, all or most of the other Small Rig attachments are fairly universal, and you can easily find which ones will fit the cage system that you are using. The main advantages of the cage are these multiple mounting points, which I'll show you how to use as I continue. But for this build, I'm combining the cage with this simple top handle. The benefit to this is it gives different ways to hold the camera, not only when filming, but just when carrying it about as well. The cage also gives the unit a bit more size, which I find just makes it easier to hold. And a quick shout out to Small Rig for their attention to detail and including this little magnetic key below, which can be used to easily screw and unscrew the little screw in the bottom, which is how you remove the camera and detach or attach the cage. You can also easily mount a shotgun mic or a lav mic system to this build, put a tripod plate underneath, and you're good to go. This is probably my favorite and most used build, the run and gun. Once again, the cage is foundational to this build, and it has the addition of 2 things, this side handle here and the monitor on the top, which is attached using this mounting plate here. This monitor is the Atomos Ninja 5, which connects to the camera via HDMI cable. As you can see here, it can be easily mounted to the top handle, or if you don't want to use a top handle, it can just be mounted straight to the cage itself. There are loads of videos out there about monitors like this, but the main advantages of them are that they are better than using the inbuilt screens in the cameras. Exposure and focus is easier to judge using the built-in tools like waveforms and false color and focus peaking. This monitor can also record to an external hard drive that plugs in the back, and that gives you the option for different codecs and formats. This used to be a bit more of a big deal because some cameras couldn't do 4K 10-bit internally, but could externally. That's changed quite a lot now, so I don't ever find myself using the external recording option on this monitor. As such, this model's probably overkill now, but I don't really feel like there's much point in me spending money swapping out when it's perfectly good just to use as a monitor. More on that later. The other thing I mentioned was this side handle, which can be mounted to either the left or the right of the camera, depending on how you want to hold it. This just gives you more control when doing handhold fielding, which is what I do most of the time. And it also gives another hot shoe mount point to put a shotgun mic or similar on there. This is pretty easy to put together and to break down. You can take the camera out just by undoing the screw at the bottom and pulling it out, so it's easy to put in a bag or a case. It's great for using handheld as well, and I think the extra weight from all this extra stuff helps with that. And it does pretty much everything I want it to do on the majority of my shoots. One other thing I want to mention quickly is this RT25 light that Small Rig sent me as well. This has become a really good option for creating my B-roll sequences, for just having an additional light when I need one, for a bit of use in the background of some of my videos as well. It's absolutely brilliant. You can change through a whole variety of colors with it. It's got these barn doors, so you can increase or reduce the light and direction in that way. You can turn it up. It goes ridiculously bright for a light of this size, which, as you can see, is completely unnecessary, but this is just such a versatile piece of equipment that now comes everywhere with me, and it's just really useful to have if you're a filmmaker. So I'd really recommend that. That's the RT25 light. Right, this is where it starts to get really fun and we start to really explore what is possible with these rig builds. For this, I'm using the Sony FX3, which in terms of technical specs is a very similar camera to the Sony A7SIII that I was using before. This exact rig that I'm going to go through now can be replicated using the Sony A7S3, and therefore I assume other similar cameras with the same body shape like the R5. I haven't tested that, that is just an assumption because I'm not willing to buy two of these. Once again, the build centers around the foundation of a small rig cage. This one is slightly different because it is a cage for the FX3. This product here, attached to the back, is the Cine back, made by Camera Foundry, aka Caleb Pike, who is also known as DSLR filmmaker, whose videos you may be familiar with. I bought this with my own money, but I think this is going to change the way my filmmaking goes. The main advantage of this is power. This whole thing can now be powered by this small rig V-mount battery, which fits on the back like so. This then powers these D-tap connections on the side here. One of these goes to a dummy battery in the FX3. The only thing to mention about this is because the wire protruding the door doesn't quite shut properly, but the cage does keep the door in place so it's not coming out below the bottom of the camera. The other thing the D-tap can power is a monitor. There are also these spare ports for other adapters to power things like, for example, a wireless follow focus unit that you might want to attach to the front. Managing the power from a single source makes life so much easier, and you can easily check the amount of power left just by pressing the button on the side there. There's also these ports in the top for USB and USB-C, so you can use this as a battery pack to charge other devices if you need to. So if you're on a shoot and your phone runs out of battery, you can also use this to charge your phone, which is a really clever little idea. Can't get this back in now. There we go. Once it's kitted out like this with the top handle and the monitor, it just feels wonderfully balanced and it'll literally run all day. I've had it on for 5 hours and only drained this battery by 50%. I mentioned potentially switching monitors before. I feel like this might pull more power than some of the newer monitors. It just drains batteries really quickly, and obviously without having another monitor to compare it to, I can't confirm whether that's true or not. But some of the newer monitors, like the ones from Portkeys, are really interesting to me because they enable touch focus on the actual monitor in conjunction with the FX3, which I think would be really useful. Just another couple of things to mention with this Cine back. It's really well designed because it's got this gap in here, which is quite hard to see, where you can tuck all the wires. And it's also on this side got a little space and an area there for the screen to fold into. So a lot of elements have been considered when this has been produced, and it just all comes together really nicely. Obviously this is now the size of a small cinema camera, but I think the options this gives me with my filmmaking moving forward will perfectly support future projects that I want to do. Users of the FX3 will know that it comes with this XLR top handle attachment, which has had its fair amount of critics over the years. Camera Foundry have released this additional piece of equipment that allows you to use that top handle with the Cine back, and this completely removes the need for a separate top handle. You can then use an XLR mic like this one, which is the Rode NTG4 Plus, and that draws phantom power from the camera and in turn from the V-mount battery. So everything is still powered by this battery. This additional small rig component here allows mounting of the monitor above the XLR adapter, and to me, this whole thing just aligns perfectly. This is my perfect sort of documentary cinema camera rig. As I said before, there are workarounds to also do this using the A7S3 complete with the cine back. So this isn't just limited to an FX3 system. Breaking this down is also fairly easy. All you need to do is loosen these two screws on the top handle, this screw here on the bottom, and the camera unit and the lens just slide straight out from it, freeing it up from everything else. It's really simple to do, and it's dead easy just to do that so you can put the camera on a gimbal or similar. I just wanted to mention this quick tool also from Small Rig that I've owned for a few years, with all different kind of hex sizes and a flat head on it, which makes putting this together and building it up again really easily. And unlike a Leatherman as well, this hasn't got a blade in it, so I'm pretty sure it is flight safe. There is just so much flexibility with this now, not just with this, but with the previous builds as well. If you need to add rails, matte boxes, teleprompters, it's all possible with these cage systems and the mounting options that they support. Now, these cine back pieces definitely aren't the cheapest, but Small Rig do have options to use a V-mount battery with a kind of rig system a bit like this as well, and it's definitely worth exploring, because being able to run everything off one battery is an absolute game changer if you're filming all day. It just removes the need to think about having spare batteries that are charged on you all the time, not just for the camera but for the monitor as well, because this churns through batteries really quickly. This whole kit costs less than the equivalent cinema camera, and for me it has a lot more flexibility. I've decided that that flexibility is more important to me than the boost in quality, which is why this is what I've gone for. So which option are you picking? The minimalist, the run and gun, or the DOP? Let me know below, and if you have any questions about any of these builds, please put it in the comments below and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. I want to introduce a bit more filmmaking content onto this channel, because I believe the relationship between photography and filmmaking is really close, and it's one that I want to explore a bit more. I believe a lot of photographers could get a lot from turning their photography gear more towards filmmaking. So if that's something you want to find out more about, please consider subscribing to the channel. Turning your camera from this to this not only gives you more flexibility for filmmaking, but it also gives you, I think, confidence to try different things out. There's no denying that when you're holding something as cool looking as this, your creative boundaries certainly feel like they're stretching out further than you thought could be possible.